In all my years of gaming, I have always been a big story-driven gamer. The more story, lore, and emotional connection I can have with the game, the better. I connected with the Metro series instantly because it was not your run-of-the-mill post-apocalyptic game. Instead, it tells the tale of the survival, love, compassion, action, horror, and more. Now we arrive at the last stop on this emotional journey, Metro Exodus, and man, it is a ride. So, the story in the Metro Exodus is by far the best in the series. Artyom, Anna, Colonel Miller, and the Spartan Order are working their way out of the Moscow to make a better life for themselves. But as always, the group is met with more challenges than ever before. There were a lot of times during the story I was met with really sad moments that actually made me think of my own family and how tomorrow is not promised. The struggles Artyom and his crew go through made me appreciate Dmitry Glukhovsky's author and the creator of the Metro universe, and A4A games much more. They are not just going for an emotional reaction, they are also trying to grasp the players in a multitude of ways. There were times I was sad, there were times my heart was pounding from the action-packed firefight. Hell, there were times I felt like I was playing a survival horror game too. I've never had such a roller coaster experience in a game, and I really enjoyed every moment of it. As you move on from Moscow, you see the group of the affected by the emotional stress, this nuclear winter, placed on their shoulders. We also see the glimmer of hope that leaving Moscow has given them. In Metro Exodus, players not only get to explore a city outside of Moscow, but you can also get into to explore multiple of different regions within Russia. When leaving Moscow, the Spartan Order finds the Aurora, a post-war train engine they use to carry them across the Russian wasteland. You and your crew travel on the Aurora for over a year. You see spring, summer, autumn, and winter. Each change of seasons brings the player a new level, with new weapons, creatures, enemies, and environmental challenges. The decision to move from a more on-the-rails map design to a semi-open sandbox world is one of the best decisions 4A Games has made in the series. That is when you really start to see the graphical power of this game. The overall visuals representations of the game as you progress through the story is stunning. I'm not just talking about graphics, I'm speaking on how the level and the art design really helped paint the picture that the developers team is trying to showcase in Metro Exodus. I was blown away by the detail of 4A Games put into this installment of the series. When you go from games that were mainly underground, frozen and limited on color, to one of the most dynamic visually experiences in the first-person shooter genre I have ever seen. It's very shocking, and to be honest with you. This really goes to show how much the team cares for their fans and wanted to give the game the best possible send-off they could. Another thing that has been really improved are the creatures in the world. Some creatures like demons and the Watchmen return to the series, but we also got a new additions like spiders, shrimp, human animals some sort, and large mutated boss battles. This is where the horror side of the game kicks into the play. Due to the fact that I was mainly playing in the late evenings when the in-game time of the day would change to night, I'm not gonna lie, I kinda turned it to, whoa, like some sort of moments like that, like what the hell, it's like kind of frightened me in some cases and scared me as well. Ah, what the fuck? Oh my god. So like the dark tunnels, frozen tundras at the night and lonely, creepy boat rides had me on the edge of my seat. It got even worse when I ran into the creatures or even hordes of creatures, with barely any weapons, ammo and health packs. The heart palpitations were real. This game took my breath away visually, but it made me scream in fear for more than ever before. This is when I realized this isn't just a first-person shooter, this is a survival horror shooter that I couldn't put it down. With this game being more of a survival shooter, that means a lot of times you will find yourself low on the ammunitions and filters and more. As in common with the series, as you traverse through the levels, you can loot areas and use what you find to create in-game essentials and customize your weapons. Metro Exodus is the first game of the series to introduce on-the-go customization. This helps you create ammunitions, grenades, filters as you explore the world. You can also customize weapons with new attachments found in the world or change your attachments at any moment of the time. I found this to be very goddamn helpful too, as I'm someone that is very indecisive when it comes to what weapons I want to use in the game, especially if I do not know what I will be challenged at in front of me. There are a lot of times that the shooter get diluted with the addition of the extra modes, unnecessarily add-ons and over-the-top gameplay like wall running. This is not the case in the Metro Exodus, right? The game has stayed true to its roots, and because of that, this is one of the best story-driven shooters I have, well, perhaps I have ever played. The game really makes you feel like you're in the world, barely clinging to the hope of that one day you will live a normal life. With that said, the game sticks to its roots for sure, but that isn't always a good thing. While playing the game, I found glitches you would usually find in the type of genre like ragdoll glitches, invincible enemies. Yep, that happened. But what got me the most was the stiff controls on the console version of the game. I reviewed this on my PlayStation 4 Pro and felt something like sometimes the controller was only halfway working. I actually switched out the controllers twice, and because of that, I thought that the sticks on the set controller were maybe getting stuck or felt dragged out. I'm not too sure, but I found out that it was actually in the game. And it's like, ugh. Now this obviously didn't ruin my experience with the game, but it did make me feel that the controls in game haven't been updated in some time. I also wanted to mention regarding the voice acting and the sound and music. So, like, the sound of the voice acting seems to be done badly, in my opinion. I think that the voice acting with the Russian voice was actually pretty good. But the problem with it was just the microphone. Maybe it was a cheap microphone, or maybe they used some kind of poor implementation of the environmental visions. Like, for example, when a character is outside or inside the train, it just sounded like very shallow. It was a lot of echo. And I could simply rush out of there and know where that was a problem, in my opinion. But I do want to mention the monsters and the sound that they gave off was very creepy in a good way, and that was giving you some kind of the anxiety of progression through the level, and it felt really good. Music itself, it seemed at first non-existent. Perhaps when I was playing through the story of the game, I did not really pay attention as I already was immersed into the game. The other thing that I might want to nitpick about, I did not particularly like that to go through the next area or traverse somewhere else. It requires you to go through a small animation that you're required to press and hold a square button for a few seconds. And this almost always distracted me, pulled me away from the story. But I also see why it was necessary to have it in there. If you did not want to progress yet, you want to explore instead really quickly, so you look around, and so yeah, it makes sense why you needed that as well. If you press the square button really quickly, you want to pick up the thing, or then the system would not know what if you want to progress through, but then instead you need to hold down that button. Makes sense. So the development, right, and the characters are interesting and have a variations that they are always very happy to see you and support you. I really like that, because again it gives you a sense of the friendship while you're playing the game is still pretty awesome. Perhaps maybe as well the leader, he is more of a ruthless character and always seems to give you missions and he has a bit of a personal beef with you as well. I think it's pretty great. Ananda, the most important one, Artyom's wife. She seems like a strong, believable character, but at times I feel like she was also a bit of a damsel in distress, but it's not a bad thing in my opinion. As a husband coming for her rescue, weirdly, I actually was satisfied. But don't get me wrong, because she had a lot of badass moments as well. Okay, so I need to mention this. I have few big problems with this game, and perhaps maybe they're not really big, but I do want to mention it anyway. You might know that Arthur does not speak at all, except for a few loading screens and the trailers. I understand that 4A Games wants to keep it true to the Metro series, that's why Arthur at first never did speak. But personally, I think it's actually an outdated design now that every character needs to have a voice. Now, here's the thing. I understand that it might be a good thing that Artyom does not speak, so instead we can imagine and we could think of what he could be saying at that moment. But here's the problem. The problem lies as that we already know how he sounds like, and his tone of voice as well. So no matter what we know regarding of the Artyom's perspective, we already know how he's going to react to it. So we cannot have our imaginations lie in front of us, because, you know, Artyom is a character. It's not that we believe whatever it could be the character in front of us. We already know how Artyom goes about the things. So, I mean, I think personally it would have been much better to introduce Artyom's voice entirely. Oh my god, and one of those moments as well, so goddamn awkward, especially when like somebody asks you a question, or maybe they're in a conversation and they ask you a question again, and you just like a tool standing there not replying. Infuriates me, to be personally honest. And especially when like a character maybe asks you a question and he just diverses to a different conversation entirely, and it's just like, what? Stop, give me a break. Overall, my time with the Metro Exodus was truly something special. Yes, the game has a few technical hiccups, but what I really took away from this was the story and the emotional experience. 4A Games and Deep Silver should be proud of the title that they have created here. This title really gave me hope that story modes in video games are not fading away. I can say with the clear mind that this is the title is what a story-driven, first-person shooter fans have been always asking for. So, please do yourself a favor and perhaps buy this game on day 1, or day 2 or 3, or first week. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Tell me down in the comments what you think about this game if you have had a go at it, and if you have not, would you consider picking it up anyway? Again, thank you again, like and subscribe, hit that bell notification at the side. I'm going to let you go now, have a good one.